The heart-stopping moments before Apollo 11 landed on the moon as the world watched. This week, the Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins suited up as America waited with bated breath. Would the trio be the first Americans to set foot on the moon? It was a grand, new goal that was first set by President John F. Kennedy. Astronauts who were preparing for the U.S. first lunar mission followed a complex training program. There were simulations. Americans counted the days with so many questions about the mission as did NASA. And then it was time. On July 16, 1969, families across the U.S. gathered in their living rooms and hundreds of millions around the world watched as they, after traveling 240,000 miles in 76 hours. The next day, hours later, the Eagle began its descent to the moon. But then, there were 12. Mission Control at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston housed the engineers and flight directors who worked tirelessly to ensure Apollo 11's mission was a success. A12. Give. The control room responded with silence. They would continue with the mission. Armstrong flew the lunar module manually, evading boulders in their planned landing location. With the fuel running, critical minutes passed, and then Armstrong could be heard saying they, "Roger. Thank." Then, there was the sound of applause in Apollo Mission Control in Houston as some wiped away tears. Bounded across the moon's surface on July 20, 1969. From the moon, 19 minutes later, it was Aldrin's turn to take his first steps. Beautiful. President Richard Nixon spoke to Aldrin and Armstrong while they were in space, telling them Yet, back in Apollo Mission Control in Houston, after the cheering and the tears, they knew they had a lot of work still left to do as they guided the men back home.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.